by Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
Know your role and shut your mouth, you jabroni!
Fires upfield into the end zone, and it's caught. Jelani Woods, touchdown! ISB!
43-point night for Tyrese Halliburton.
How do you like that, partner?
Galloway drives all the way to the hole, throws it up, got it! And Indiana's got their first lead of this contest.
It's pretty simple. I win. Google me.
Now, here's your host, Jim Coyle.
Hello, everybody. Welcome aboard another edition of Indiana Sports Speed Radio here on this Thursday, March 13th, powered by Andy Moore Honda. As always, just go to andymoorehonda.com to get more to your door. And, man, we have got a loaded show to talk about. Plenty of things to talk about, that is, as all of the tournaments are deep into play. Louisville looking for a new coach, and some of those on the wish list are already eliminated. I'm going to eliminate a few others for you as well. Ted Cruz says Congress 50-50 shot at passing legislation in regards to college athletics. LSU women lose a player to the portal before the tournament starts. How about that? Kim Mulkey, always in the news. She doubled down on what she had said about after the fight that happened the other day, that she wished that whomever it was would have pushed Angel Reese. But that's Kim Mulkey. And then she comes back and says, well, that's just me. I'm a fighter. I'm tough. Blah, 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 blah. Whatever. Last night in the Big Ten tournament action, Indiana's next opponent determined as Penn State blisters Michigan. And Maryland, I don't want to say upset Rutgers, but that's because I picked Rutgers to win that game yesterday. But Maryland comes out of that one, and they will move forward. But tonight, Indiana will take on a Penn State team that they should be very familiar with. They've lost to them twice this season and the last 4 times in a row. Yes, I had to say that. Last 4 times in a row. Hello, and how's everybody doing on the Andy Moore Honda hotline? Fred jumping on from Easton. Bob down in Georgetown, Indiana, where I grew up. Heath. He says, I got to put, that's worthy of putting up. Good morning, true fans. That's funny. That's right. I should start that off, John, from now on.
Telling everybody that they're true fans if they're with us.
That's right. Good morning to the true fans that are following us.
We're just
on
kicking
Indiana
everybody else to the curb
Radio.
today.
No, I wouldn't do that. But they're special because there are true fans.
Exactly.
We're going to start using that. Seriously.
By the way, well, you already mentioned that they're facing Penn State tonight, the Hoosiers.
You know what?
DK Sportsbook.
That could be a good segment, by the way, not to interrupt you.
No, you're good. DK Sportsbook, DraftKings has Indiana's 2-point dogs to open up.
Yep. Saw that 2-point underdogs. Well, why wouldn't they be? I mean, they've lost to this team twice, handled easily at home in Bloomington because they succeeded on the perimeter where Indiana has been so porous defensively. Although Indiana is on a roll right now, having won 4 straight games, they haven't really beaten anyone in that stretch. Bottom feeders.
That's not entirely true. I mean, Minnesota's on the bubble. Michigan State is in the tournament. But yeah, I get what you're saying. They haven't beaten anybody.
That's debatable that they are in the tournament.
And I think I agree with you. You've said this a few times this week already. I think they need to win at least 1 game to solidify their tournament status.
Well, by the metrics, they do not. That is what's mind-boggling. They can go, so they're 18-13 right now. They haven't played, so they'll play their first game today. If they lose, they could go 18-14 and still make it in.
Yeah, that's insane.
Because their metrics are so ridiculously high. Louisville did fire their coach yesterday. That happened after we were off. And so we'll talk about that in regards to I saw a wish list put out by Zags. The Zags what's he call his thing? I forget. But anyway,
I wish I knew who you were talking about. I would have helped you out.
Oh, Zags. The Zags blog.
I don't know the Zags blog. Maybe I'm an idiot, but I don't know the Zags blog.
Oh man, I'm feeling my mind is missing right now. Somebody will pop it up in there for us. And I don't have time to look it up. But I'm looking at the list that he put out. And
Brian says Zagrag. Is that what you're talking about?
Well,
or is he just teasing?
Probably. But anyway, the list at the top of the list is Scott Drew. And I see zero chance of that happening. Well, I shouldn't say zero. I just don't see a very good shot. He's been at Baylor for 18 years. He made $5 million 2 years ago. Why would he? What is there to draw him to Louisville? Nothing to me. Nate Oates is on the list as the second highest. I'm like, well, apparently you have not looked at his buyout because it's at $10 million.
Well, let me step in real quick. And what even confirms the even less likelihood of this is that during Josh Hurd's presser yesterday, he mentioned that there are buyouts of upwards of $10 million and, alluding to those like Nate Oates and Mick Cronin. So it's probably not going to be.
You know what Josh Church's is?
It's probably really small.
$250,000.
No, I said Josh Hurd, which is Louisville's athletic director.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
Very similar names. Very
Josh
similar
Schertz,
names.
Yes. Well, let me get to Josh Schertz in a minute because that one's a very, very likely scenario. But Nate Oates, he's got a $10 million buyout and he's at Alabama. Why would he want to come to Louisville?
It's definitely a better job resource-wise than Alabama. That's the one thing. But he also has Alabama rolling in a way that they haven't been in a long time. I don't see Nate Oates. I agree with you. I don't see Nate Oates leaving. The only reason Scott Drew would even flirt with the Louisville job is if he just wants something new. I mean, some coaches, maybe they want it in their career in a place that's different than they started. And I'm not saying Scott Drew's about to do that.
I saw someone told me or said that he's about to go into the Baylor Hall of Fame.
He will, regardless of whether he gets up from this job or not. So I agree with you. I don't think he moves on from Baylor.
So you got him out of the way, Nate Oates out of the way. Next on the list, Chris Beard. Guess what?
He
signed an extension yesterday.
Yep, that's not happening.
He's out. Next on the list, Mick Cronin, $20 million buyout.
That's not happening. The likelihood of Nate Oates is higher than Mick Cronin.
Yeah, so those top four, they're gone. Now we get into the possibilities. Jerome Tang from Kansas State, Steve Forbes at Wake Forest, Josh Schertz at Indiana State. He's got a $250,000 buyout. You know why? He only makes $356,000 a year.
I mean, it would be a meteoric rise for somebody like him. It would be very Kalen DeBoer-esque.
Well, first of all, Louisville would do what Louisville did a few years ago when they had who was it that filled in?
Chris Mack.
No. Who they filled in? That was the interim coach.
Oh, David Padgett?
David Padgett. They paid him like $800,000 to coach that year. I could see Louisville saying, okay, we're going to bring you in. He's only making $325,000. We're going to give him a $2 million salary. $2 million. He's going to just that's a 400% increase for him.
Very budget friendly hire if you get somebody like him.
Oh my goodness, does that save them money? But he's a good coach. Nah, he's a good coach.
Not as high of a risk as a Kenny Payne, obviously. Honestly, you can't do worse. And I hate saying that about somebody who's an alum of that school, but you can't do worse than what just happened there.
What about Shaka Smart? I see him as a viable candidate. We don't know what his buyout is because he's at a private school, but he makes $3 million a year. So I'm going to guesstimate at worst it's $3 million. But I
think it's going to be one. You already mentioned the top two that I think it might be, and it's Jerome Tang and Josh Schertz.
Yeah, I would
Jerome Tang currently at Kansas State. He is on the older side. He's not as old as someone like Mike Woodson, obviously, but he is close to his 60s. I'm not sure if Louisville is looking for a younger candidate in general, someone more long term, or if that doesn't matter to them this time around. But we'll see. It could be it could be somebody we haven't even talked about. Amir Abdur-Rahim from South Florida is somebody that nobody really mentions, but he's had a meteoric rise, sort of similar to Josh Schertz.
I love how Billy Donovan is. I love how Billy Donovan's on this list.
Oh, yeah. It doesn't matter. Any time a big name job comes up, people throw out Billy Donovan, Brad Stevens. Now Jay Wright fits into that category, somebody who's retired. And
yes, he's on there. I'm like, get out of here. He is not. He's got his money. He's got his national titles. He's not coming out of retirement, people.
Well, gun to my head, though, I would say Jerome Tang today.
We'll see how that happens. Heath, David, how are you, sir? On from Dagonia Springs. Appreciate you. Las Vegas, Larry's back. Forrest, down in southern Georgia. Brian from ECI. All right. Fill me in. Daggone it. I'm usually pretty good with those acronyms. What's ECI? Dadgummit. Cheryl Sizemore from Remax Realty. Appreciate you. Jamie, checking in from Grand Rapids, Michigan. John from Southport, Indiana, which is, I'm shocked they did not have a site there for semi-state this year. Kevin checking in from Jeffersonville, where his Red Devils will be traveling to Newcastle on Saturday morning. Luckily, they don't have the morning game at 10 a.m. I may not make that game, peeps. But Jeffersonville taking on Lawrence North and Xavier Stink Robinson. That's going to be a Lawrence North is just a damn good basketball team. Them and Fishers, they may be the top two. We'll see. We'll get some score predictions for tonight, Philip. We'll do that in a second. Robert says after watching Penn State, they didn't look very inspiring or motivated. Well, they were playing Michigan, so they have to save their motivation and inspiration for a bigger battle tonight. John checking in from South Brown County. Chris, hey, how are you, brother? Appreciate you. Says great show as always. Excited for Flacco backing up. That's right, Joe Flacco to Indianapolis to the Colts. How about that? The Hat Man says, hey, how are you? Great day in Alabama. Love how you got people all over, brother. They're at it today. Love that. Brian, how are you? Boy, he says, boy, the Pacers had the Bulls beat and they let it slip away. They sure did. Those hurt. And those are going to continue to hurt when you add those up to the games the Pacers have lost to teams that they damn sure shouldn't have lost to, like Charlotte and many others. Donald, former Hoosier. He's still a Hoosier, but living down south in Atlanta. How are you, sir? I'll have to get through the rest of these a little bit later, but we appreciate you all. And we're back with more. Shannon Griffith is going to join us next. We'll get you caught up on some Indiana football action as the spring season's right around the corner. We're back with more Indiana Sports Beat Radio, brought to you by Andy Moore, Honda, and Free Think. Don't forget, for your go-to apparel promos, whether it's something you need professionally done, 20 of or 200 for your season's recreational softball league, Free Think Apparel meets your printing needs. Their team of industry experts works with you to design a professional-looking and sales-generating web store, your own web store, by the way, for custom-designed apparel. From large corporations and high school sporting events to national accounts and pro-led athletic camps, Free Think Apparel delivers. Visit freethinkapparel.com today and get printing. They've got all kinds of stuff and can do everything as far as printing. They can print your car, wrap your car. I couldn't believe all the things that they can do. It's amazing. Back with more Indiana Sports Beat Radio and Shannon Griffith right after this.
We'll be right back for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
Ooh,
Good morning.
How about that,
Shannon.
John? How about that, John? Louisville and Bob
joking.
Huggins.
That is somebody choking, hopefully. There's no way.
Why?
2 reasons. I'll give you the obvious one. He's way too old. Even if the only reason he would have been in coaching still is if he stayed at West Virginia. And 2, Louisville would be dumb out of their minds to hire somebody who just got let go for the reasons that they got let go for all of his remarks on Xavier Radio and getting a DUI. I mean, that's why he got let go of West Virginia. They're not going to hire him.
Understand that.
That's right.
Steven. I missed that one. Steven says, true fan of Jim Coyle. He's my number one fan. Steven is number one, and 5 Lefts is probably number 2. And I'm joking by that. They don't like me.
Bob Huggins is 70, by the way. So even if he didn't have all of his off-the-court issues.
Wow. Did not realize that.
That's crazy.
Tony, how are you doing, sir? We appreciate you. Yeah, I am talking about the Zags blog, Brian, but I'm blanking. Shannon, I'm blanking on the East Coast writer Zag. Gee whiz. Oh, I can get rid of. I'll tell you, I can get rid of it now. Adam Zagoria. Gee whiz.
Oh, okay. There you go.
Gee whiz.
All I'm thinking of is Gonzaga.
Yeah, no. That's. Yeah. Drewsville. Drewisville. That's funny. There's somebody who's got him in a nice red coat. He's not coming. I mean, I never say never, but Shannon was talking about, Louisville fired their basketball coach, and their number one wish is Scott Drew. That's like Indiana fans and Brad Stevens the last go round. I'm like, it wasn't going to happen.
A little more likely than that, I feel like.
Well,
I'm not saying it's likely, but it's not as big of a pipe dream as Indiana wanting Brad Stevens to come back.
Yeah, I don't think it's as a big a pipe dream. Yeah.
Well, but it wasn't known that was what it was like. Because Indiana threw the sink at him, man.
Yeah, I'm sure they did.
All right, here we go, guys. You got 20 seconds, Jimbo, if you needed to get something.
Largest selection of in-house made products around and everything you need to make a gourmet meal at home. Or pick out a tomahawk steak or a grouper filet and enjoy it cooked to perfection in Chop Shop Steakhouse. Chop Shop Market and Table, a part of the Wild Food Group, is your butcher, baker, and fish house, no matter where you live.
This segment is brought to you by the Chop Shop, home of the Indiana football and men's basketball coaches shows. Welcome back to Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
Hey, welcome back. Thank you so much for being with us here on Indiana Sports Beat Radio on this Thursday, March 13th. Deep into March, baby. That means a lot of basketball, and it is tons going on. But we're going to talk some pigskin. Shannon Griffith's joining us now. Nothing new really happening except for there's just that continuous buzz, Shannon.
Yeah.
For Indiana football. There was a piece in the in ESPN on ESPN.com or whatever.
Yeah.
And Indiana does not get that kind of national non-negative buzz.
Right.
And there is nationally, there is a buzz around Indiana football. I'm not saying that they're saying Indiana's going to go out and win the Big Ten or anything like that,
Right.
but it's easy because the bar's not exactly set very high. But the level of confidence that Kurt Signetti has and that he talks with, and then when whomever he talks with or talks to, he carries that same level of confidence. They're probably leaving going, damn, Indiana's going to win some games this year.
Yeah, I think everybody's interested in this about Coach Signetti and, kind of how he's, I don't know, taken the campus by storm in some respects, and some of the ways that he has spoken in some of the open interview sessions about his confidence in himself and his staff and such. And I think,
he does not have confidence in himself. That's where he's lacking.
Did you Google him? But I just think it's one of those things that he's creating the buzz that I think in some respects it has lacked at Indiana over the years, to put a spotlight on them in a time of year where it's going to be you got me confused now. But it's putting them in a spotlight now where eyes are on them, and let's face it, kids' eyes are on them. Recruits' eyes are on them from not only in the state of Indiana, but from all over. And when you get that national attention, you've got to capture whatever time you have in that regard, taking it to the next level in the sense that you're trying to promote a program that in the past hasn't always been overly easy to promote on a football aspect.
The one thing that I don't want to say I'm surprised, but that hasn't happened just yet, and it will, but he has not landed this big name recruit. And I get it, but I'm still waiting and thinking that there's going to be somebody that says, okay, I'm going to be, somebody has to be that first as far as bigger 4-star, 5-star. There has to be that first one. And I'm waiting for that domino to fall.
Yeah. And then that can be a catalyst to,
absolutely,
into, adding on to that national potential profile that could come with it. If you get a high ranked kid, there's several in the state that they got to try to get. I mean, and it's always going to be tough. Those kids in the state of Indiana are a little bit more, I don't want to use the word jaded, but jaded in the sense that they haven't seen Indiana have ultimate success. And irregardless of a new coach coming in, they're not on the bandwagon of the success train as of yet. So that will be difficult. But there's several in the state of Indiana that in some respects you like to see them get and win some of those battles of teams trying to come into the state of Indiana and pull them out of here. And that's going to be the difficult thing for them. And it may be until they get a body of work in front of them, that domino may not fall until that point in time. But I think as soon as they can get that guy, it will help them immensely get the other dominoes to follow in behind them, because your best recruiter are the kids that you get. That's the whole thing in recruiting. It's the kids that you recruit and get in the in the car, so to speak. They're the ones that are going to help convince others to join them. And
well, we saw that with Tom Allen, Shannon.
Yeah.
There was a game that was on national TV and that Indiana won. It might have been at Wisconsin. I'm not sure. I can't remember, but it was the game where they were all coming off of the sideline, jumping on his shoulders. Hey, come! I think it was Tywone Mullins said, "You come play for this man."
Yeah. During the COVID year. Yeah, that was during the Wisconsin game. Yep.
And so that will be an organic thing that happens, especially, and it probably and may not happen until after next season, after they show that, hey, this is for real. But like I said, I fully expect Indiana to go to a bowl game next year because of the schedule, how the schedule lays out, that Cignetti is not, I don't think he's full of crap. So I think he is not going to put his ass on the line like that with writing those checks verbally and not back it up. So, and the schedule, like I said, it lays itself out, and they can potentially do something like win 7-8 games next year. I know that is, I don't want to sound like that goofy homer, whatever, but with the schedule, how it lays out, the fact that you've got all these other programs also with new coaches, new coaching staffs that Indiana has to play, that is going to be a big help to them. Michigan State, UCLA. And again, the way the schedule lays out, it is there for Indiana to take advantage of. Doesn't mean it's going to happen, but if that does happen, holy crap. Especially what's going on with basketball right now. Indiana fans want something. They want something. They're tired of not having a winner because the basketball program had been so used to being the engine that drove the train. And this is a weird, this is going to be crazy to say, but this is an opportunity. You're never going to change Indiana from a basketball school. I'm going to tell you that. Even if they won a Big Ten title in football, you're not going to change Indiana from a basketball school. But I think that the support would be just as fervent as it is for basketball, because I've seen it. We've seen it. Was it years ago against Cincinnati? When it was, oh boy, that was a game Indiana should have won. But anyway, the crowd was there. You could feel, it was palpable. You can feel the energy. And I definitely think that is, it's Indiana football fans are kind of like a volcano hovering under the surface.
Yeah, you're right. That's a battle for all schools in the state of Indiana, defeating the basketball moniker that's over their head and such as that. You can say the same thing about Purdue and things of that nature, but there's no question with what's before them and their schedule, the way it's set up this year, there is the opportunity for them to catch lightning in a bottle and do some things that maybe have never happened at Indiana by just getting the wheels turning and getting it on a downhill trajectory so that things can move faster as you can, garner up speed. Those are all possibilities and such for them. When you look at things from a black and white perspective. Now, we all know that doesn't win you any ball games, but it does lead to what the opportunities are laid out in front of you. And I'm sure they're going to be preaching that from the start of spring practice until they start fall practice about what the opportunities that lie in front of them in order to get themselves in a position to capture lightning in a bottle in that regard. And, maybe we start seeing Memorial Stadium a little bit fuller than it has been in years past,
and past halftime.
Right. Yeah. That's one of the things that I never understood about Indiana. And I've heard some speculation as to why that may or may not be, but I hate to say the dirty word, Purdue, when you watch them, they could have, they had a bad team last year and they were packing their stadium. And I know there's a difference of the two schools in that regard, but you're right. If we can maintain a stadium that is full and capture lightning in a bottle, it could be a transformational year for the Hoosiers and Coach Signetti, albeit though it's his first year.
I think Indiana needs to eliminate halftime pass outs.
I never understood that, but you're absolutely right. They should not give halftime. Yeah, they shouldn't give halftime pass outs. I mean, I think we know why they're giving them, because there's no ability to smoke smoke them if you got them inside a Memorial Stadium. So they give them so they can go out there and have a cigarette or two. But you're right. I don't think there's any value giving pass out at halftime. Because you want to keep people there. You don't want to let them go, so to speak. So, but yeah, I think you're correct in your observation of the opportunity is certainly there for them to have a very successful start to the Curt Signetti year, just based upon the black and white of the facts of having the schedule that they have in front of them.
And spring practice starts here soon, man.
21st, I believe.
Looking forward to getting out and seeing that. It will be the first iteration of the Curt Signetti era. Now, still a few pieces missing, that guys that are not able to get here yet. One of those is the Alberto Mendoza. I just love to say that name.
Yeah.
Albert. I can't trill my R's this morning.
Just rolling off the tongue there, isn't it? Yeah, you'll be hearing that.
Alberto Mendoza.
He'll be here in the fall, but Tyler Cherry's here.
Hey, how good of a shot do you give Tyler Cherry for taking the number 2 spot and quarterback?
I give him as good a shot as anybody right now, because there's nobody that's shown anything yet to Coach Signetti and his staff. But I think they've been.
You do have Taven Jackson, who has not only a year at Indiana, but the previous year at Tennessee. This is his third year playing college football.
Mm-hmm. Well, I've said the thing that holds Taven back is in between his ears. It's a mental thing for him, in my opinion. If he can get over the mental aspect of it, I think you could have a more consistent quarterback in Taven, and he's got ability. But Tyler Cherry, I think, has all the right tools to be very competitive in that room and put himself in a position that he's competing to be in that, be that guy. If you ask Signetti, he's competing to be the starting quarterback, because Signetti doesn't look at it any other way, even though Curtis Rourke has a body of work and years of playing in front of him. But Tyler Cherry has a great chance to be number 2. I'm anxious to see how he handles the transition to college football. And, that's the key component in all this, is how does he handle the transition? And from all the things that I'm hearing, they've been overly impressed, not just with him as a person, because he's a top-notch kid, but his work ethic that he's displayed in the weight room. And to me, that says a lot. I think they said he's actually added like 10 to 15 pounds to his overall frame, and it's all been muscle. It hasn't been, it hasn't been the bad weight. It's been the good weight that he's added onto it. But it's going to be an interesting spring battle. There's a lot of them. You can go right down the position groups. Wide receivers, another one that's going to be interesting to see how that all shakes out. And I don't know if you saw this. It just came out either yesterday or maybe early today. The NCAA reaffirmed that multiple transfers are allowed. There's nothing preventing any type of penalty against a kid that would transfer multiple times. And like I said, you're going to see some things happen at the end of spring, good, bad, or indifferent. But it's also a chance because Indiana is a little bit light at the defensive line. I think that they need some bodies there. And I think that's what you'll see them looking at extensively throughout the spring to see if they can find the body or two to bring in at the D-line position.
Yeah, the NCAA is just basically they're throwing in the white towel. I mean, there's no other way to put it. They are, we're adamant against the multi-transfer, which I agree with,
right?
Because you have just opened up a Pandora's box. My God, students went from having basically nothing to having everything and having is that a Stanley Therms?
That's a Yeti.
I was gonna say I thought it was one of those Stanleys like I had to get my daughter for Christmas that every college kid had to have.
I need an extra jolt of caffeine.
You and me both.
But
yeah,
you're right.
Go ahead.
They've opened well, I don't know if the NCAA has opened Pandora's box. I think the courts and things of that magnitude have opened Pandora's box when it comes to giving kids everything now. I mean, it's clearly in today's world, the student athlete controls everything, when it comes to the ability to transfer multiple places and the NIL, things of that magnitude. You've got collectives now that can, solicit kids that are in the portal or highly ranked kids out in the recruiting world and put packages together for them to tell them what they'll make if they come to school X. I mean, there's so much there that the NCAA is behind the 8 ball, and it's all because of how they've written things into rules. And it's now come to the forefront that it's starting to bite them in the behind with some of this stuff that's getting challenged in courts, because nobody's ever challenged them in courts like they have now. I mean, now they're being challenged in courts almost on a daily basis, I bet they feel like. So they're going to have to find ways to work out in a compromise somewhere around along the line, hopefully. And I'm not sure when that's going to be, but it's going to have to involve the presidents and everyone to kind of wrap their minds around all this, or I do think you'll ultimately see them becoming employees of an institution, which means they'll probably unionize like this basketball school did out east, that they formed a union. So it's getting a little nuts, but that's just the landscape that we are in right now.
Yep, absolutely. And I can't wait. I'm looking forward for the spring football to see how everything is going to be organized, how it's going to be run. It's going to be very, very interesting. Shannon, I can't thank you enough, brother, as always.
No problem, my man. I appreciate it.
Got any slots coming up soon on filling in on
No, I think I'm pretty much I think I'm back in the bullpen for now. With
your
the
sports rushed out.
Yeah, my contract only allows me to do so many. But
they can't afford you.
Can't afford me. That's right. I'm a Diet Coke guy, so as long as they keep Diet Coke in front of me, I can roll pretty easily. But no, just working on some things with spring ball. I've done a few things already. Got another thing coming out here shortly, and evaluating some of the things that are going to happen this spring as it pertains to positions, and go from there. And everything else will take care of itself. Hopefully, we have some open practices. That's the one thing you just don't know about Signetti. Will he open the practices? One's going to be open spring game, but we'll see.
He has to be because you've got your first year. You've got to give the media something. You've got to give the fans.
Absolutely.
I'm thinking, but we'll find out. Shannon, cannot thank you enough, brother. Appreciate you as always.
You too, buddy. See you.
Have a great day. Shannon Griffith joining us from Hoosier Tailgate. Make sure you give him a follow as well. Lots of great content from him as he collaborates with us as well on this Thursday, March 13th. We've got plenty more coming up. Also, I'm going to talk about the differences between the Big Ten this year and last year. While everyone is saying Indiana ended up where they thought they were going to end up, not really. They did, but the Big Ten is not what we thought it was going to be. Indiana, a 2-point underdog tonight as they'll take on the Penn State Nittany Lions in the fourth and final game of the day in the Big Ten tournament. That is tonight. And John, I disagree with you on the fact that the placement is not done with purpose.
I don't know how you can disagree, because if you look at past brackets and the way the seeding is, it's always been the exact same. I promise you can look at it like that.
But TV controls everything. They control everything. And here's a great example.
First of all, we were supposed to go to break, and we can talk about this on the other side if you want to.
Okay. We'll be back with more Indiana Sports Beat Radio right after this.
We'll be right back for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
If you're looking for
I didn't mean to cut you off, but you were going to break, and then you weren't going to break, and I was like, he's not going to break.
It doesn't matter because we've got an open segment.
I mean, it does, but it's because I don't want that second segment to be super long, and then I have to edit it down for Fort Wayne. That's what you know what I mean? Honestly, it gives me a chance to pull up previous brackets so I can reference what I was talking about. All right, here we go.
Used vehicle? Well, nobody beats the prices and selection of Andy Moore Honda in Bloomington. Right now, get a brand new Honda with no payments for 90 days. That's right, 2023 and 2024 Honda Pilots, HRVs, CRVs, Honda Ridgelines, payment free for 90 days. Or get 0.9% APR financing for 36 months on a 2023 Honda Ridgeline. Go to AndyMooreHonda.com and get more to your door.
This segment is brought to you by RE/MAX Advanced Realty, Indy Home Pros team by Cheryl Sizemore. Welcome back to Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
Welcome back. Hope you're having a great week. It's basically the weekend, peeps. It's Thursday. It's tournament time. The Big Ten tournament well underway. Day 2 happens today with 4 games. Indiana included in that. They play the nightcap tonight against Penn State as a 2-point underdog. John Boy, we were talking, and are all 4 games today in order of seed?
So the opening game is the 9-8 game or the 8-9 game, however you want to reference it. And then the 5 seed will play against Rutgers. Did Rutgers said Rutgers won last night?
No, Maryland upset.
Maryland excuse me. So Maryland, that's the 5-12, and then Ohio State and Iowa play after that, the 10-7, and then Indiana plays in the 6-11 game.
Oh, come on. I'm trying to get the stupid bracket. There it is.
So if you're going back into the conversation about whether or not they do the placing of the game on purpose, if you look at the last, you could probably go back even further than what I've got on my screen, but I pulled up the past.
Okay, here we go. Now, I agree with you in regards that they have to. All right, I've got to find there's something rolling in my ear, and I've got to get it turned off. Can't find it.
Well, anyway, while you're working on that, if you look at the last, again, you probably look at all the last tournaments, but I'm just got the last 2 in front of me, 2023 and 2022. It's the exact same formats as the one going on this year. They've never changed it since they've had 14 teams in the conference, and it's always been the same times.
But what I'm saying is number 1 always first?
Yeah, like for example, go back to 2022. Indiana was the 9 seed. They played the very first game that day, which was at 12:30 Eastern time.
Yeah, but my point being the higher seeds, not that seed. I think that if let's say Indiana was the number 1 seed, I still believe they would be playing tonight. And they would be playing the number 4 seed, or they would still be in that 4 versus 4 bracket, but they would reverse that to get the bigger games on at an hour where more eyes are, because Purdue fans can not like this all they want, but Purdue's game will draw less eyes than Indiana's game.
I get what you're saying, but that's never happened. Not in the Big Ten tournament. I mean, the schedule has always been what the schedule is, and I don't want me to come off as contentious. That's just how it's been.
No, I if that's a fact, that's a fact. But I've just never seen TV not have control over
because
that.
Again, it's supposed to. The reason they do it the way that it is done is because, and I mentioned this a few days ago, it gives the teams with the better seeds longer rest time. So the teams like Purdue,
a couple hours. Oh no, that's
when
early
you
in the
play
day.
the games get later in the day, the following day, and so the team that plays early on, like for example,
and that makes sense as well.
Okay,
I mean, it all makes sense, but but I can tell you, you're looking at the schedule. Purdue, let's say they play Michigan State. Now that's a game people will tune in for just because of the names. In this would be Friday. Northwestern, let's say they play Wisconsin. I'm not sure how much that's going to draw. Then you'd have Illinois against, I'm going to go with Ohio State. And that's going to draw some eyes because Illinois and Ohio State is on if Ohio State beats Iowa, they might be in the tournament, because losing to Illinois is not going to be a bad loss. But Ohio State could possibly get into this tournament with a win. Michigan State, I think they're in regardless. I think if they lose, they could be dropped down to the buy-in game. And I think because there's so much discourse about the fact that Michigan State is so high with a very, very marginal average record. And speaking of which, I'm going to send this out as a tweet later, but on Twitter, but I was doing some research yesterday, comparing this year's Big Ten to last year's Big Ten. In 2023, last year, there were 8 at this time going into the tournament, 8 Big Ten teams with 20 wins or more. This year, there's half that, 4. Only 4. Last year, there were 2 teams with 19 wins. That's the same as this season, but you've got the great drop in 20-win teams, half. Last year, there was 1 team with 18 wins. This year, there are 4. There were only 2 teams with overall losing records last year. This year, there are 4. In the conference, there were 8 teams with a conference winning record. This year, 5. Last year, there were 2 teams that finished 10-10. This year, there are 3 of those. And last year, there were 2 teams that were just under 500 at 9-11. And this year, there are 3 of those. So the drop-off has been tremendous. And so I bring that up because everyone that is talking about, well, Indiana's finishing where they were projected to finish. Yeah. But see, the Big Ten was not projected to be this horrendous, because finishing 5th last year in this scenario meant that you were above 3 other teams that still had 20 wins. So you can see how far from the case that is this season. And that's why it's really amazing, the drop-off by the Big Ten. And it's a little scary. It is scary. Are these teams going to bounce back? Hell, Indiana's worried about, or the fans are worried about Indiana. I understand that. Well, what about these other? The conference needs to be good. The conference should be good. But there has been so much change to college basketball, college sports, but college basketball, what we're talking about, that there are teams that get good. Kansas State. They're not too far removed from a 2-22 season. Maybe 3 years ago. I forget what that was. But we've got a lot more coming up. Job Boy, what's up next?
We should have Tyler Smith from thehoosier.com with us.
We'll talk some basketball, previewing tonight's matchup with Penn State and Indiana in the Big Ten tournament taking place in Minneapolis. We've got more coming to you, brought to you by Remax Realty and Cheryl Sizemore. For those looking for a home in the Indianapolis area, you need Cheryl's 2 decades of experience. It could be the difference between getting the home you want or not. Reach out to her, Cheryl at IndyHomePros.com. Back with Tyler Smith when we return.
We'll be right back for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
In the market? Yeah, Heath, you're not. Nate Oates is not going anywhere. $10 million buyout. Brian says Woody was clearly hurt. Fans upset. There were sparks. He'll make up for it. Both parties want the same thing badly. Yeah. But does Woody have the energy to do what he needs to do? You know, they took a private plane just to see Trent Sisley play. It's an hour and a half drive. I understand Micah Shrewsbury doing that from when he came down from Notre Dame, and I'm sure that Matt Painter does the same. That's not an easy or quick drive from there either. But
so what does it matter though? Even if he is like low on energy, like I don't think the private plane thing really matters, does it?
Well, the reason I'm saying this is because that's a very close game, a high school game. And even Archie, he wasn't doing the driving, but he was driving to places. He went to a speaking engagement in Evansville that he drove to. Well, that's further away than this thing was. That just tells me that every single little thing has to be like it's a Hollywood celebrity. Well, when the first time that he went to that game, they sat down in there while Matt Painter were just sat in the stands with the people. Micah Shrewsbury sat in the stands with the people. It's a very different setup. That's all I'm going to say. And people can get mad all they want, but they don't talk to people. They don't go places I go. They don't see what I see. They don't talk to the people I talk to. So my opinions don't just come out of my ass. I can tell you that. It might sound like that. How's it going, Tyler Smith?
I'm good. How are you?
Oh, just peachy.
Peachy.
Right,
what's going on at thehoosier.com? Well, never mind.
Yeah, we'll find out in the year. Views from one of the gorgeous Stonecrest Signature Series house plans. We have several lots available with scenic views of the golf course. Contact Amy Rhoda with Rebesco Real Estate for additional information. 812-583-0919 or go to mystonecrestliving.com. That's mystonecrestliving.com for more details. This segment is brought to you by the Ugly Grouper. Welcome back to Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
Welcome back, Indiana Sports Beat Radio here on this Thursday. Tournament time. It's underway. At least the conference play, that is, as we get ready for the NCAA tournament. My favorite time of year. How could it not be? Tyler Smith from thehoosier.com joins us. How's it going, Tyler?
I'm doing well. How about yourself?
Cannot complain. Before we get to the Big Ten tournament at all, Indiana reportedly involved with Penn graduate transfer guard Clark. I don't know how you say his last name. Slatert. Slatert. It's like Simon Scott. The Skajote. It's got a J in it. An ill-placed J. So I'm going to say Slackert, Chris Slackert. But he was a 4-year player at Penn, but the Ivy League does not allow graduate students to participate in athletics. And even though the NCAA has granted that extra year, this would be a COVID year for him. He cannot do it at wherever the hell he did, Penn. So he has been contacted by 24 schools already. He is a prolific shooter, and I mean prolific. He averaged around 14 points a game on 46% three-point shooting, I think. 48% from the field overall. His 58.6% true shooting mark in 20 Division I games this season is the best of his career. So he had the highest assist to turnover ratio, played 34.5 minutes a game. 6'1" guard. Looks like an Indiana player. He's one that Indiana could use, but there are a lot of players, a lot of suitors after him.
Absolutely. And it's going to be an incredibly busy couple months coming up here. Portal season, portaling, whatever you want to call it. He's one, Indiana's got to find the right fit. So it's going to be interesting to me to see if they go for maybe a mix of a couple guys that have that 5th year and then some younger transfers as well to try to get some longevity with the guys that they bring over. But yeah, they're going to be.
The thing is, you don't know about longevity anymore now that the NCAA has said, hey, it's all free range, baby. Go. There are no fences anymore. All the fences have been torn down.
Yep, which I know a lot of fans, don't like one part of it, but the other part of it, a team like Indiana, they want a chance to regroup quickly, and it gives you that opportunity, whether you like that or not. They have that opportunity to go shopping in the portal and see what they can do.
Absolutely. Well, Indiana taking on Penn State tonight in the second round. What is this? The quarterfinals? Let's see. Friday would not be the semis. I don't even, what the hell round is this?
Yeah, what's before quarterfinals?
The round 8th finals? Yeah. But tonight the Indiana Hoosiers take on Penn State, a team that has handled Indiana easily both times, especially in Bloomington, which that's a loss, right? That loss there and the loss at home to Nebraska. If they don't lose those 2 games, I think that they would have had a shot of getting in the tournament, even without a signature win, without getting the Kansas win. Now, had they got the Kansas win, and where they are right now, I think that they would be in the tournament. They were that close, although the net doesn't say that and the metrics doesn't say that. You would be unbelievably hard pressed. I don't care what their numbers would be at that point to not put Indiana above Michigan State and Ohio State.
Yeah, I think that loss at home in Bloomington was kind of I wouldn't say it was the first time, but it was the maybe final moment where collectively the fan base and media were kind of like, that one is going to hurt for obviously tournament resume. But Penn State not only winning both times this year, but they've won the last 4 meetings, I believe. They took Indiana out last year in the conference tournament. So Indiana
as a 10 seed,
yeah,
they were a 10 seed last year.
Motivation other than some payback on Penn State to try to keep their season alive.
Well, yeah, I don't think you even have to worry about payback. Your inspiration should come from survival. It's win or go home in every stretch of the imagination. Let's be honest. They do. There's a path to get to the NCAA tournament, but that's winning the Big Ten tournament. I do not see that happening, and I'm not alone there. But this team is going to play in the NIT. Well, they'll have an opportunity to play in the NIT. And whatever you do, you want to go into it with as much positive energy as possible. And they're on the 4-game win streak right now. Getting at least 1 win in the Big Ten tournament would be a positive thing, because losing to an Illinois, there's nothing shameful about that. As Illinois is not only a tournament team, but they're going to be one of the good ones.
They would face Nebraska next, by the way, not Illinois. Yeah. Just to clarify.
Well, I meant eventually.
They went to. Yeah, I think it's
another
an important
team
game.
Swept Indiana.
It's an important game for everybody involved to go and get this win tonight, to keep hope alive, even for one more day.
Keep hope alive. Keep hope alive.
That's right. And as Mike Woodson has said before, to kind of validate the previous, validate this win streak by beating a team that, Indiana's not what fans want to hear, the slight underdog against Penn State in the second round of the Big Ten tournament.
Well, why wouldn't they be? They've lost to them twice, including at home in Bloomington.
Yeah. Yeah, it's tough. I mean, Ken Pom has them by I think 1 point and the line is 2. So should be a close game. And it'd be really nice for them to get that 5th win and to at least give themselves an opportunity to play the next night and see what they can do.
Absolutely. Indiana with a shot to move on as they'll take on Penn State tonight, but that's not going to be easy because Penn State played very well against Michigan last night in their win over the Wolverines.
Yeah, and Ace Baldwin has killed Indiana this year. They hit 12 threes in Bloomington, and then at Penn State, they hit 26 of 30 from the foul line. And one of their biggest advantages is they turn teams over. And so not sure if Galloway will play. He's one of the ball handlers, facilitators. Indiana's going to have to figure out how to handle that pressure. Penn State turned Michigan over, I think, 11 or 12 times in the first half yesterday. So Indiana did not have Xavier Johnson in the 2 games against Penn State. So, hopefully he's one of the difference makers there for them. But if they can handle pressure and stay out of foul trouble, I think those would be the 2 keys into advancing.
Yeah, 66-57 was the final score in that game, and not exactly a high-scoring game, as Penn State has been known to put the ball up this year. Penn State is just 16-16 right now.
Yeah.
I mean, that's after the win.
Yeah.
They were under 500. So we're sitting here talking about a team that has beaten Indiana the last 4 times, and they went into this thing with a losing record, which is mind-boggling. It really makes you scratch your head about Indiana. It's like they were able to feast on bottom feeders, but the middle of the pack schools, I'm not going to say ate their lunch. Some of them did. They got back to some of them, and then they couldn't handle any of the upper level schools.
Yeah.
Indiana has got to find guard play that will allow them to succeed. And I don't have information regarding this, but there's a lot of talk about the availability of Trey Galloway. We do not know. There's a lot of rumor floating around. It's this or that. People, I've seen it everywhere. You've seen it, talking about a potential meniscus tear. Again, that is a complete rumor. I'm not saying it's not true, but it's a rumor until it's confirmed.
Mm-hmm.
But if it's just a tear, not a complete tear, I've got that right now. They generally don't surgically repair those unless they tear completely through. If it's a partial tear, then it's just painful. I can tell you that from experience. But playable, that's something you can play with. And I wouldn't even know the potential of how much it really is. But the fact that he came out of the last game and didn't play, well, that was not a good sign.
Yeah. Yeah, obviously, if anything that keeps him out for any time there, even in the previous game, it was a very painful injury. So not a whole lot of time here. 3-4 days later, if it's something that he can play through without risking further injury, I got a feeling he would try it if that's possible. But you also wonder about you can never question the kid's toughness, but you would wonder about mobility and being able to play against a lot of pressure that Penn State's going to bring. So maybe something he tries it and see how it goes. But again, we don't really know and won't know until tonight. But that would obviously be a huge loss if he's out. They'd have to have Leal step up. May not have Walker playing as well. So you may have a rotation of 7, including Anthony Leal, and you better hope there's no foul trouble from that.
Yeah, and so the Penn State team, they've got some shooters on that squad as well that gave Indiana fits in both of the games, but especially in the last one. What does Indiana need to look forward to in this round?
Well, I know that they try to attack the bigs in the high pick and roll, and then from there, they try to hit the corners, or they got a couple guys that can create up top. Penn State has actually been kind of average in threes against the rest of the conference, but as you said, they just absolutely torched Indiana. So maybe they'll have a bit of tired legs playing one game. Of course, some of these teams will have to play multiple games in a row if they want to go deep here. But Indiana's got to get to shooters, as they have been doing a better job of lately. I feel like it's a different team since the last time these two teams met. But again, a lot hangs in the balance with Galloway's availability.
Well, Penn State is going to put the pressure on Indiana, and Indiana has had a penchant for turning the ball over this season, not just against a full court press. They've had tons of turnovers that have seemed to account for a lot of points off. Every time that Indiana seems to have that high number of turnovers, I look and boy, the points off of turnovers are also high for their opponent. That was the same for Michigan State, although they were able to get away with that. But the Penn State is going to bring the pressure.
Yeah, and I saw even after the game yesterday, Penn State guards talking about how, teams don't try to dribble through our defensive trapping and what they try to do. So, Indiana's got to be obviously very aware of it. They'll have a ton of film. They've seen them. But I feel like a good number is, I'd say maybe 10 or less turnovers has got to be a goal because, Penn State, I think they're second in the conference in turning teams over. So even that number of 10 or 11 is going to be a challenge for the Hoosiers, but it's going to be needed because obviously if Penn State can get it going against them, if you give them some free points off turnovers, it's going to be a tougher night for you.
They're playing against arguably the best all-around player in the Big Ten, and Ace Baldwin. I know everyone thinks Mount Edie is that, but Mount Edie is what he is at 7'4". Ace Baldwin is a baller who's going to find a way to play in the NBA. But he is the defensive player of the year in the Big Ten, but he's also a big help on offense as well. He's a troublemaker. I don't mean that by causing he causes havoc is what I mean by troublemaker.
Havoc maker. Yeah. He's a good one. And this time of year, this is March, you think about guards win games, and hopefully in the near future, Indiana will figure that part out as well. And so that way makes a team like Penn State dangerous when you've got one of those good guards. They got a couple, but especially him. And honestly, even if it's with friends filling out brackets for a tournament, I'm looking at guard play. Like, what do these teams have? Do they have some guards that can light it up? And he's one that Hoosiers will have to contain. Otherwise, Penn State can be a lot more dangerous than their record would dictate.
Yeah, and whether or not they have Trey Galloway, even if they do, will he be the Trey Galloway that has been a gigantic part this season and become Indiana's biggest facilitator with a high averaging high assists each game here as the season has gone along. A high of 12 in one game.
And he had 3 of the last 6 games. He's had 11, and 12, I think. So
that's just crazy.
Yeah.
But that you can't take that away and have the same success. Not only Indiana, they were on kind of a roll. Trey Galloway, unfortunately it took them all season, but they were really in sync. Trey Galloway with Kellel Ware. Those two, that tandem has really been getting it done. And Kellel Ware, he's been playing spectacularly. He needs to pick it up at the free throw line, but he has been playing lights out for Indiana, and that is going to need to continue. Malik Renew is going to have to step up, and Mackenzie Mbako, they're going to need him to continue to do what he's been doing. He's had a great last 6-7 games of the season, averaging like 16 points. His shooting has been off the charts. And now you add Xavier Johnson back to this equation, which really, if Trey Galloway's not available, that's going to really disrupt the flow, because with Trey Galloway and Gabe Cupps, that was a manageable matchup. But with Xavier and Gabe Cupps, the speed is so much different. Xavier is going to get the ball up the floor faster. And I'm not sure what Gabe Cupps is going to be left to do other than play defense. And maybe that will be his main role.
And hopefully Johnson can at least contain Baldwin because, again, he didn't play in those matchups. So I think this game will probably be similar to some of the earlier games in the year where because of the 3-point difference at times and some of the other things, the turnovers, Indiana might need an elite performance from both bigs. And if they get that, they can absolutely advance. But your margin for error is so slim in some of the other areas if things aren't going your way that you may have to have really, really big numbers from Ware and Renew. We know they're capable. Got to stay out of foul trouble.
Absolutely, they do. That's the last thing they can afford because we've seen the depth has been. Mike Woodson has shortened his bench. Caleb Banks is in the witness protection program. So that's obviously there's no way that his name's not going to be in the portal. I'm surprised he's not in the portal already.
Yeah.
I'll be quite honest with you. John, obviously you don't have to wait until your team's season is over because earlier I talked about that LSU player, women's player that left their team to enter the portal.
Well, you can announce that you're going into the portal, but you can't officially be in it. Yes.
Okay. Well, I'm surprised a little bit that Caleb Banks hasn't done that, to be honest with you. There's no way he's staying. He hasn't. I don't even know. I'd have to go back and do the research to look how many games it's been since he played. It has to be 10. I mean, totally disappeared. So you've got there's somebody gone off the bench, but we're long. We've got to take a break. Tyler Smith, what's up next for you at the Hoosier.com?
Big Ten tournament. Mason is there in Minneapolis. We'll have a forum each game. There's a lot of great fans that have a lot of good chat for that. And then whenever the season's over, a lot of portal season, a lot of coverage for that will be on the Hoosier.com.
Absolutely. Make sure you go to the Hoosier.com and keep up with everything going on up in Minneapolis and therefore afterwards. Tyler Smith, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Hey, up next, Chris Denari from the Indiana Pacers joins us. Brought to you by the Ugly Grouper down on Anna Maria Island, Florida. For all of our peeps that are out vacationing, spring break, whatever. And everyone that, all of our listeners that live down there. The Ugly Grouper on Anna Maria Island, Florida, just west of Sarasota. Boy, the food is tremendous. Back with more right after this.
We'll be right back for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
Good
morning, Chris.
Good morning. That is our favorite place, Anna Maria Island.
Have you been to the Ugly Grouper?
Where is it there?
It's up on the northern end, I think.
I'm trying to think of all the places we've eaten there. My wife found a place a number of years ago, and we rented the same place for a week for quite a while. Then they sold it. It was right on the beach. Fantastic place.
Holy cow. Well, you know what? I may have somebody I can hook you up with.
Oh, we have, yeah, and we have some other places. I mean, we've gone to some other places. We usually stay in the Holmes Beach area. So
I don't know where that is.
It's you're coming from Bradenton, and it's the sort of the, I guess you would say, the more southern part of Anna Maria.
All 7 miles of it, and it has 3 different governments. Did you know that?
No.
Yeah, it's like 3 different little fiefdoms.
No, it's my wife usually goes every spring right about now, but she didn't do it this year. Yeah. Okay, pups. Hey, come here. Come here. In here. Yeah, my wife found it. Our oldest son and his girlfriend and her mom and my wife were going to go down senior year, like 2008 of high school, and they broke up. So my wife had to find a place, and at the last second, she found this place, and we went there every year then for, probably about 10 years.
I have yet to go, yet to make it.
It's fantastic.
All right, here we go, guys.
That's all I hear.
2024 Honda Pilots, HRVs, CRVs, Honda Ridgelines, payment free for 90 days. Or get 0.9% APR financing for 36 months on a 2023 Honda Ridgeline. Go to anymorehonda.com and get more to your door.
This segment is brought to you by Reynolds Family Dentistry in Sellersburg. Welcome back to Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
Welcome back, Indiana Sports Beat Radio on this Thursday. Tournament week started, but the NBA is still rolling with the regular season. Last night, the Pacers at home hosting the Chicago Bulls in a game that they had in their hands, Chris, and let slip away.
Yeah, boy, that was a tough one. No question about it, especially after you came in off of a terrific win on Tuesday night, winning at Oklahoma City, one of the best teams in the NBA. They had won 9 straight at home, 16 of 17 and 21 of 23. And the Pacers went in there and really dominated. And then last night had a double-figure lead in the first half. I thought the end of the first half really hurt them. It was only a 4-point halftime lead. Then it sort of went back and forth. Both teams had double-figure leads. The Pacers had a 3-point lead with, 3 seconds to play. DeMar DeRozan made 1 free throw, purposely missed the second. The Pacers knocked it out of bounds, and then DeRozan hit a shot to force overtime, and then, Chicago made the plays. I mean, DeRozan was great. He had 47 last night. So, yeah, really tough loss. The Pacers just, for whatever reason, Jim, have not been good on the second night of a back-to-back. They are 2-10 this year. They're 9-3 in game 1, 2-10 in game 2. And takes a little bit of the wind out of your sails after a really good road trip. They went to Orlando since we last talked, and Oklahoma City, 2 very good teams, and won both of those games on the road. And then you come home and lose to the Bulls. So you just got to regroup, have 2 more home games before a road trip. Brooklyn on Saturday night, and then Cleveland on Monday. So, disappointing last night. Was a terrific game. I mean, if you were just a fan and you tuned in, you didn't care who won. I mean, it was a great game. But unfortunately, the Pacers were on the wrong end of the scoreboard.
Yeah, the Pacers with a very, very balanced attack with 7 players in double figures. No one above 27 points was the high for Miles Turner. Only get 17 from Pascal Siakam. Tyrese with only 17, but he has 14 assists, which goes a long way. But on the other side of the ledger, you just mentioned DeMar DeRozan, and he scored the points. 46 of them. And his running mate, Alex Caruso, brother to David Caruso, he has 23, but 46, man.
Yeah.
DeRozan went off.
Well, here's what he did last night, Jim. He's in the top 30 all-time in the NBA in scoring, and he passed 3 players last night. Here's who he passed with over 30,000 points. Or whatever he had, not 30,000. He moved into 30. He passed Adrian Dantley, Dwayne Wade. Who was the third guy he passed? Just an Elgin Baylor. That's
Holy
who he
cow.
passed last night in one night to move into like 32nd all time in the NBA.
That's amazing that he is that high up on the scoring list.
Yeah, I'm gonna put it here because I wanted to see how many, what his point total is.
Indiana's just could not hit from the three last night. 14 of 45 for 31%. While the Bulls only put up 28, but hit 10 of those for 35%, Mark.
Yeah,
So,
the Pacers 3-point shooting really hasn't been good the last couple of games. By the way, DeRozan, 23,000 points, 23,180. He is 32nd. Steph Curry is just in front of him at 31st. And both of them should pass Robert Parrish yet this year because DeRozan is only about 150 points away and Curry's only about 30 points away. So
the Chief.
He's going to be 31st in the NBA in scoring with nearly 25,000 points. But to your point about the three-point shooting, the Pacers have been a good three-point shooting team all year. They're shooting 37%. That's number 6 in the league. Turner did a really nice job. He made some critical threes in the fourth quarter and overtime last night, but the rest of the guys really struggled. So what was interesting, Jim, is since we last visited last Thursday, from a three-point shooting standpoint, I think they made 8 in Orlando and 9 at Oklahoma City and 1. And, you know, you and I have talked throughout the year, they were winning a lot of games by making 15, 16, 17 three-point shots. So that's a little bit of good news because you find other ways to do it, right? They get points in the paint. They get fast break points, transition points. You don't want to always have to rely on your three-point shooting, but it would be good to see that three-point shooting come back because it makes it a little bit easier.
Absolutely. And what was I looking at? Oh, man, I had something I was going to say. Now I forgot. Wasn't that important. But so now one of the Pacers, they've got to get back to it. You've got to put those games are hard to put behind you because you're at home. You had that game won. You need these games. And
yeah,
this is one that slips away. The Chicago's not exactly in the level of Charlotte, but these are the games that the Indiana has to win.
Yeah, I mean, they've done such a good job against what I say the real good record teams in the NBA, but they've struggled against those teams under 500. I sort of put Chicago, as you said, they're in a different category. They still have playoff aspirations. They're still in the play-in area. They've got really good talent. They've just underachieved a little bit this year, but you're right, at home with a lead late, that's one you can't let slip away. I thought they had won the game when they had a 1-point lead at the end of regulation. They threw it away, looked like Kobe White was going to score, and Pascal Siakam came out of nowhere and made one of the great blocks that you'll ever see. The ball was then saved by Andrew Nembhard to Nesmith. I'll give the Bulls a lot of credit, Jim, because if you watch that play, they foul Nesmith to keep time on the clock. If nobody's down there, Nesmith just dribbles the clock out and the Pacers win. So there's all kinds of things. We look at, you know, the games that our favorite teams play, and there's certain plays in the course of a game. If you change it, then maybe your team has a better outcome. And there were a number of things down the stretch that the Pacers could have controlled, I think. And then there were a couple of things that weren't in their control. But, yeah, that last night was one that you let slip away. And that's the last 2 home losses, Jim. Remember last Thursday, after we talked, the Pacers lost a 2-point game to Minnesota and had a chance to tie at the end of regulation. Last night, they lose a game where they have a chance to win at the end of regulation. So, you know, they're 3-2 in their last 5 games. All 3 wins are on the road. Both losses are at home.
Well, coming up, they've got 2 more home games to get back on in the winning ways. The Brooklyn Nets come to town on Saturday, and then Cleveland on Monday.
Yeah, you know what's interesting about Brooklyn is there are 15 games left in the regular season, and the Pacers still have not played the Brooklyn Nets. They will play Brooklyn 3 times in the last 15 games. The other team that officially they have not played the LA Lakers. Now, they played them in the in-season tournament championship game, but that was an 83rd game, did not count in the regular season standings. They still have to play the Lakers twice in the last 15 games. So there's 5 games against 2 teams that you haven't even played. That's just the quirk of the NBA schedule. Sometimes you'll play a team 4 times in the first 20 games of the year. And here we are with 15 games to play, and the Pacers have not even played the Brooklyn Nets. So we'll see them for the first time on Saturday night.
And what are you expecting?
Well, they're a team that's out of the playoff chase. They're in the lottery right now. They've got some good players. They've got Mikal Bridges, Cam Johnson from North Carolina. I mean, it's just, Jim, there are a lot of good players in this league, but it doesn't mean you're going to win games. Can you string games together? And but I remember a year ago, before they made the trade, the Kevin Durant trade, and Kyrie Irving, they came into Gainbridge Fieldhouse with a decimated roster, and they beat the Pacers. It was a night that Cam Thomas, who played at LSU, had like 40. So you just have to be ready every night because a lot of times you have guys playing for jobs, right? They're playing to tell their front office, hey, I belong on this team. So you got to be wary about some of these teams that come in with nothing to play for.
Absolutely. And Indiana has a lot to play for as they're still trying to elevate themselves to the best playoff spot possible and remain in the playoffs. Never a given by that, even though how many games are left now? Probably 15.
Yeah, and last night was big because they were 6th in the East with a chance to potentially go to 5th. Instead, they lose, and they fall back to 7th by a half game. So 8th through 4th right now in the East is only separated by about 2 games. So those swings are huge when you win and when you lose. And that was an unfortunate swing last night the wrong way for the Pacers.
Yeah, and but hopefully, like I said, they get that turned around. And it just sits the All-Star break. Tyrese Halliburton has just not been Tyrese Halliburton. I know he doesn't want to – he's kind of tired of talking about that, and I understand that. But it's just not, it hasn't been quite the same, and it's odd because he was on such a roll and played so well at the All-Star game.
Yeah, I mean, his assist numbers are still good. His playmaking is good, not great. He's turned it over a little bit more than he has. But what's really gone away, Jim, is that three-point shooting. He was a 40% three-point shooter for much of the year and had months where he was shooting 44, 45%. I think in his last 8 or so games, he's only shooting 20% from three-point range. And that is a huge weapon for him because he can shoot from so deep. So it would be really good to see Tyrese get that three-point shot back as you go down the stretch. I thought last night in the last 10 to 12 minutes of the game, they need to get a little bit more out of Siakam and Halliburton, and they really didn't have a lot of touches as far as shooting is concerned. And honestly, if you look at the NBA stats, these are the two of the best clutch players in the NBA. So Miles Turner did a great job last night late in regulation and overtime. Hopefully the Pacers will turn things around Saturday night against Brooklyn.
Looking forward to it, man. How have you been?
Good. Nice to be home for a few games because then on Tuesday we head out for a 9-day road trip. Games against Detroit, Chicago, the 2 LA teams, and then Golden State. So that'll be the final significant road trip of the year, but it'll be a 9-day road trip that starts next week.
Well, and the NCAA tournament is about to start. We've got the Big Ten tournament underway right now. Indiana playing tonight against a Penn State team that has taken them to the woodshed twice. They're going to have to slow down the press of Penn State to move forward. Indiana has won 4 straight Big Ten games for the first time this season. So we've got a collision. There's a collision coming.
Yep, you're right, and that's the nice thing about having the next couple of days off, and then we don't play on Selection Sunday as well, so have a chance to watch a lot of college basketball over the next few days as we get ready for the NCAA tournament.
Well, enjoy it, sir. We appreciate you immensely. Look forward to it.
All right, we'll talk to you next week. Thanks.
Absolutely. Chris Denari, the voice of the Indiana Pacers, joining us here on Indiana Sports Beat Radio, brought to you by our good friends down at Reynolds Family Dentistry in Sellersburg. Those of you that live in the area, you need to keep that championship smile up. You need to go see our good friend, Dr. Jay Reynolds at Reynolds Family Dentistry. Back with more Indiana Sports Beat Radio right after this.
We'll be right back for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
In the market. What the hell? Come on. Oh my God, you jerk. What the hell? Oh, great. Now my stinking mouse is frozen. Yesterday was my keyboard. I figured that out. My keyboard has a rechargeable battery.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, and I had to plug it in. I guess I can keep it plugged in, but I don't know if that'll kill the battery. Was that the old days? What's the point of having it plugged in? Have it plugged in. It's supposed to be cordless. Da 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 da. Oh my gosh. What in the crap is with my mouse is frozen now? That is dumb. What the hell? Jeez. Man, you got to be kidding me.
Some people are throwing out Will Wade to replace Kenny Payne at Louisville.
Well, he they probably don't even need to make a big ass offer to get him.
Nope. Same with Josh Schertz. I don't know who they'll take. I'm still going to put my money. If I was betting, which I'm obviously not going to literally bet on it, but I'd still take Jerome Tang. But we'll see if that changes.
This is going to sound rough, but Josh Schertz to me would be a great hire, but I don't think he looks the part as a U of L coach.
I think you're right. All right, here we go.
Table, a part of the Wild Food Group, is your butcher, baker, and fish house, no matter where you live.
This segment is brought to you by Bubba's 33 in Clarksville and Evansville. Pizza, burgers, beer. Welcome back to Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
Welcome back, Indiana Sports Beat Radio here on this Thursday. Hope everybody is jacked and ready. Hey, don't forget, go to the ESPN page and go to the fantasy tab and see. You look for, there should be the you'll see the bracket challenge. You create an entry and join the private group Indiana Sports Beat Fans. That's Indiana Sports Beat Fans. The password is simply Indiana. It was fun last year. Had a couple of winners. And looking forward to. I can't remember how I did last year. I was maybe in the middle. Last year's tournament, crazy. I don't expect the same craziness from this year, but part of that is because we've accepted part of the craziness already. Teams that are good that we're not accustomed to seeing. Utah State, not used to that. Colorado State, not used to that. Washington State, not used to that. All these teams that have elevated their game and their play and their programs, it's not going to be the shock to see a Final Four like we did last year when you had San Diego State and Florida Atlantic. And Florida Atlantic, don't forget, was a last-second shot away from going to the championship game. San Diego State hit that last-second shot to knock them out. When I fill out my bracket, it is so hard to not pick chalk. Not all the time, but it's hard to say, oh, well, yeah, this is where I think that Houston's going to lose. I don't think Houston makes the Final Four. That's one of the only predictions I'm going to make right now. Does Purdue win the national championship? I saw something with Rick Pitino yesterday talking about how many great teams there are that have a shot, but that he thinks that Purdue is going to win it. That would be their first national championship in basketball. And you want to talk about driving Indiana fans absolutely nuts. That would probably put them over the edge, John. I mean, they're already on edge as it is. And if Purdue managed to go out and win the national championship, that just, oh boy, that might just be it for them.
Yeah, and I think even a step further, and maybe this isn't a step further, but in the same vein, if a Dusty May makes a second straight Final Four, which I'm not predicting, but I mean, he did it last year. If Dusty May were to do that, the clamoring for Indiana to hire somebody like him or even him specifically would, even though it would not happen because the administration already let fans know that they are not moving on from Mike Woodson after this year. That would just elevate that noise. If either one of those things were to happen, I mean, Indiana fans, I mean, rightfully so, would be pissed. I mean, I don't know. How do fans have a right to be upset if their rival wins a national title? I mean, they're going to be upset.
Well, they've got a right to be upset for anything. They could be upset for whatever they want. But this one is not like this that you're shocked. This is one where Indiana fans are hoping that they don't win it.
Yeah.
Purdue isn't. And one of the things that Pitino mentioned was Virginia lost to the 16 seed, they became the first number one to lose to a 16. Well, they came back the next year though and won the national championship.
Yeah, that's the case, and maybe Purdue has a chip on their shoulder like that, and I wouldn't put it past them to make a Final Four run or even win the entire thing. Again, though, I'm not going to predict that. I still think it's going to be a UConn repeat. And normally I'm not the kind of person that thinks the favorites will always come through. I usually typically think, for some reason, I don't know if it's just the way that my brain works, but I typically end up putting like a 2 seed winning the entire thing, which I don't know how often that's actually happened. But at the same time, I think UConn, other than just having the pressure to win a second straight title, has all of the tools necessary to just do the damn thing, as they say. So
do the damn thing. Well, heck yeah, man. Just do the damn thing.
The one thing I'll say this last thing about Purdue, I think what's going to be Purdue's biggest issue in the tournament, if a situation like this arises, is if they run into somebody like an Alabama or an Auburn or a Kentucky that wants to run up the score. And not that Purdue can't go toe-to-toe with those kinds of teams. It's just going to be a lot tougher when they face teams that like to play fast and are super efficient offensively. And I think that's going to be the kind of team that eventually takes them down. Now, they may get lucky and never have to play a team like that. But when you play that many games in a tournament, when you have to win 6 in a row, I believe it is. Is it? Yeah, it is. Yeah, it is 6. So if you have to win 6 in a row, it's going to be tough to not have to face at least one team that plays that kind of style. So, in my opinion, that's going to be the type of team that ultimately beats the Boilers. But we'll have to see.
We shall see. They're beatable. They've been beaten. They came close at other times. I mean, look at Wisconsin almost beat them. They got beat. Look who did beat them. Ohio State.
Northwestern. They have good
but Northwestern beat them when they had Ty Berry. But they got beat by Ohio State after Indiana went to Columbus, got down by, was it 18, and came back and won that game. They nearly lost to Wisconsin, who lost like 6 out of their next 8 games, and are not exactly the style of team I thought that would beat Purdue. But that's the thing about the NCAA tournament. It's 6 games. You're going to see, I'm not going to say you're going to see 6 completely different styles of play, but you're going to see different styles of play. You're going to run into teams that have different types of advantages that do different things better than they do others. Some may be a pressing team. Some may be a defensive team. Some may be a tempo team. Could be a 3-point shooting team. Who knows? But you have to go through all of that. And that's and the last man standing, as they say, is the champion. So that's what makes it difficult. But tonight on the docket, a plethora of games in the Big Ten. You've got Iowa and Ohio State. That's later. Let me start with the first game today. Minnesota and Michigan State. What if Michigan State gets beat by Minnesota? Now, Minnesota's 18-13.
I think if Michigan State loses, there's a chance they move down to the Dayton rounds.
The play-in game. It's like well, I said that earlier. That's the worst that's going to happen to Michigan State.
Yeah.
And they will be 18-14. You got a lot of splaining to do. A lot of splaining on that one. Still, regardless. All right. So after that game today, then you move on. Maryland, who beat Rutgers yesterday, now takes on that Wisconsin team I talked about, who just went off the edge of the earth after losing that game to Purdue. Maryland is 16-16. They got no shot to get into the NCAA tournament other than winning this. Wisconsin's in, but they need it for seeding. If you lose, you probably drop a line. After that, Ohio State, the darling of the Big Ten, all of a sudden, takes on Iowa. I mean, that game could go either way, obviously, but I think Ohio State wins. And if they do, that puts them at 20 wins. They're in guaranteed. I will guarantee you, if Ohio State wins tonight, they are in the NCAA tournament. They'll be 20
It does make you wonder
overall.
if this has anything to do with Chris Holtman, or if this is just a big coincidence, or if Jake Diebler really is a good coach.
Something. you cannot have that drastic of a change. And I mean, what are they, 4-1 under Diebler?
I don't know the record they are under him, but I mean, you got to
With the
think
win over Purdue,
he's using the same talent that Chris Holtman had. And again, we don't know anything about the environment, like in terms of maybe he was a toxic guy to play underneath. Who knows? And again, that's just something that could have been an issue.
1, 2, 3. They lost 8 out of 9 games. When they lost Indiana, that was the 8th loss in 9 games for Ohio State. I believe they beat with Maryland and then lost to Wisconsin. Did he get let go right before the Purdue game?
I don't remember which game it was that he got let go before, but
he was not. Diebler was the coach for the Purdue game.
I think regardless, Ohio State would be making a mistake by hiring him as the interim. Not because he can't be a great coach, but you have the money behind your program and your athletic department. You can get somebody with more experience and more promise than an interim coach who may be riding on a lucky situation.
But what if it's not? They're 5-1.
That's why it's a risk. That's why it's a risk.
They're 5-1 under Diebler with wins over Purdue, number 1 seed in the tournament. Michigan State, tournament team. Nebraska, tournament team. Michigan, not tournament team. Rutgers, not tournament team, but a good win. But 5-1 under him. And if they win tonight and go 6-1 under him with a win over Michigan State, another tournament team, if
they can play their way
pretty good.
If they can play their way into the tournament and not just be a one and done, like losing in the round of 64, maybe if they can make a run to the second weekend, then maybe it's more realistic to consider hiring Jake Diebler. But I think you could do a lot better than that if you're Ohio State. But who knows?
Maybe they can get Mike Woodson.
Maybe.
Just kidding. Yeah, well, maybe Louisville could hire him.
They would not hire Jake Diebler.
That was a joke.
I saw, by the way, speaking of the Louisville coaching search, I did see somebody throw out Chris Holtman. If they hired somebody who was just fired, then Louisville's athletic director needs to be let go.
Hiring somebody who just got fired is one thing, and not always a bad thing.
Well, from that kind of a program from Ohio,
but hiring someone who just got fired for losing and their replacement is 5-1 since he's gone, yeah, that ain't going to happen. That's not the fact that Ohio State is 5-1 since he was been let go. He's not getting a job this year. I do not think.
You will see. But Diebler, even if he doesn't get the Ohio State job, I mean, one of the lower level schools will likely take a shot at him if he doesn't get hired as the full-time head coach.
Does any of Indiana's assistants ever get a head coaching position? I saw a post yesterday somewhere that said that Brian Walsh's name is being batted around, and I'm like, and I like Brian. Brian's a great guy and a hard worker, up and coming coach. But I'm like, how on God's green earth is his name being batted around for head coaching positions? He's been an assistant coach for what 2 seasons now?
It's a good question. It's probably a lot to do with how well he talks to recruits, and also probably depends on the level of head coaching position.
Well, it's if that's even true.
Yeah, of course.
But what about Yasir Rosemont?
Yeah, he's the one coach on Indiana's sideline that I believe has sat in for Mike Woodson once, and that was when they played Minnesota on the road last year. And they won.
Why aren't these guys getting jobs elsewhere?
Especially, I'm surprised Kenya Hunter's stuck around as long as he had. He's been through 2 coaching regimes.
Because the job. It was easier to just keep all the previous assistants than go hire your own.
Well, I'm not talking about from Mike Woodson's perspective, but why Kenya Hunter hasn't found another place, whether it be a head coaching position or something like that. But
got to get offered the job first.
1 minute.
You got to show the goods. Got to show the goods. Indiana tonight. What time is that game, John Boy?
It is tentatively scheduled for 8:30. Likely will be later because they are the second game in the second session. So probably closer to 9 o'clock would be my guess.
Man, hate doing 11 o'clock post-game shows. But what do you think?
It's your call. I don't do the post-game shows. I just set them up for you.
I'm going to have to get with Todd to confirm, but we'll probably do one. It will not be from Hoosier Hanks East live because they'll be closed by the time this game gets over probably. But
30.
Probably plan on it. So let's do that. Big thanks to Shannon Griffith, as always, for joining us from Hoosier Tailgate. Tyler Smith from thehoosier.com as well. Most importantly, thanks to each and every one of you. Without you, we have no reason to be here. We're grateful for you for tagging along. And thanks to all of our affiliates as well at 97.7 The Ref in Evansville, 1380 The Fan in Fort Wayne, WJOB in Hammond, Chicago, and WBRO in Marengo. You guys go out and have yourselves a great day. Thanks to John, producer, for keeping us between the white lines until tomorrow or tonight. I'm Jim Coyle. I will see you on the radio.
Thanks for listening to Indiana Sports Beat Radio. Be sure to subscribe to our YouTube page for more clips and team coverage of Indiana basketball, football, and more. You can also find full episodes and tons of other content on thehoosier.com. We'll see you next time for another edition of Indiana Sports Beat Radio.